Good morning, Candida.
Well, we're here on a Saturday morning, date stamp October 2025.
I know, right?
Recording, don't know when it'll be out on the airwaves, but that's when we're recording.
And I think we've selected for today just based on we were just gabbing before we started, and we're like, oh, here's a good topic. ADHD,
Right.
Always in the
Oh,
I don't want to say always in the news, but it's a timeless topic.
it is. It's evergreen.
And every once in a while, an article will come out or something. So we know it'll be on people's minds.
Yeah, especially as the school year starts. And I was telling you, and by the way, you probably heard the intro, but just to be clear, this is Mental Health Goes to School, and I'm Dr. Candida Fink, child and adolescent psychiatrist.
And I'm Joanne Berry, special educator.
And we gather sometimes to talk all things school and mental health. So I think I was telling you that I had made a TikTok at one point, sort of talking about some of the frustrations that my kids and families have when when they have well-established ADHD, and a lot of the classroom time is they hear repeatedly, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And the frustration being sort of, well, how do you balance the fact that they do need prompts versus we already know they're having trouble paying attention. When is it counterproductive?
Right.
So that's how we kind of got started, the specific topic of in a classroom. And I think we've touched on this before, but
right. Yeah.
Because it is evergreen.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you help kids with ADHD whose fundamental, disability includes trouble maintaining focus, especially on boring or difficult topics? And how
challenging or tedious tasks, we call them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how elementary teachers deal with this. Right. I have nothing but admiration for having a room full of second, third, fourth, fifth graders all day or most of the day, and having some kids who have trouble maintaining focus. Yeah. Bless you is all I have to say. But yes, but at the high school level, so students are typically in a classroom 45, 50, 60 minutes on a topic. Part of that is, of course, classroom management by the teacher. Right. But there comes a time, particularly in high school, where you will be expected to be sitting and working on some math problems, doing some writing, doing some reading, individually, independently. Or the teacher, there's a discussion, or maybe just the teacher is talking, telling you about causes of World War II or whatever it is. Right. And if, regardless of it's easier, I think, for most students if they're interested in whatever it is, 100%. Obviously. 100%. But if it's something that is challenging or tedious to them. So what we usually try, the goal is for students to develop some strategies that help them stay focused. So it might be doodling. Right. And it might be having a fidget of some sort, as long as that's not distracting to other people. By high school, they can usually manage whatever it is. Yeah. Fidget or doodling. Sometimes it might be a movement break. I certainly don't mind if students want to stand up, as long as they're kind of in their desk area and they're not, roaming the room. That can help. Yeah. I do have desks that the height can be adjusted, so it can be a standing desk. But even just standing up for a couple of minutes, movement breaks. Right. Like, just ask me if you can go to the restroom. Right. Just get out. Whether you have to go or not. Right. Right. And that's interesting because, of course, that's something that in your setting, which is a school specifically with specifically addressing the needs of kids with disabilities like ADHD, as opposed to, say, a more sort of general ed setting where if a kid's asking to go to the bathroom. Yeah, it's more of a whole nother sort of like, well, right. What are you doing? You're trying to avoid my class kind of thing. Yeah. And that completely depends on the policy of an individual school, what the restroom break situation is. And what a kid has in their 50, because in that case, it might be a 504 that says this young person can take breaks. Right.
Right.
And sometimes part of this is a student is taking a mental break and you don't know it.
Right. Exactly.
Which is it is what it is.
They need that.
But sometimes, as I was just saying, I'll notice a student is just sitting at the desk, kind of looking out the window, and I've just given them, or they should be working on a writing prompt or whatever it is, and I'll just say, "Hey, are you thinking or are you stuck?"
Right.
Because sometimes students are stuck and they don't know what to ask, and so that either jolts them back to, "Oh, okay, I'm fine," or "I am thinking," and what I don't know what they're thinking. Or it's like, "Oh, you know what? I really don't know how to get started here."
Right.
So that has multiple purposes.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. This sort of debate about, well, kids need prompts. Oh, and it ends up just feeling like, pay attention, Joey, pay attention, Joey, pay attention, Joey, pay attention, versus that curious approach. Like, what's going on with you? Like, be curious about it. Like, are you stuck or are you thinking? And they could be thinking about the work. They could be thinking about a million other things. They could be off task. They could be on task, but you're being curious about it and giving them sort of a space-saving way to re-engage. And I think that's sort of in my mind, as the mental health person, that to me works as such a great approach, because it is respectful and curious, while also, potentially moving things forward without the kid feeling like he's being like just
singled out
and repeatedly told to do something that's already hard for him or her to do, right? Because the kid already knows they can't pay attention. So that sort of again, I mean, reprompting, redirecting kids is often in their 504, their IEP. The question is in how you do it.
Well, and the other thing, particularly when we're getting started on a task or early in the class, if I don't know if the student is paying attention, like they're looking down or they seem to be elsewhere, I will just say, "Hey, are you with me?"
Right.
And they don't have to look at me. All they have to do is acknowledge it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually that's sufficient, because it doesn't matter if they're looking up, but it just makes it harder for me to know if they're paying attention. So I'll just say, "Hey,
right.
We're getting started now. You with me?"
Right. Are you with me? It's such a nice neutral kind of way. It's a version of the sort of, we talk often about the Ross Green model of, "Hey, what's up?" Right. As a way to approach a persistent or challenging or recurrent problem when you're doing collaborative problem solving, to say, "Hey, what's up?" rather than do this or don't do that, or just to keep saying, "What's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter?" Yeah.
Right. And the other thing, well, particularly since I have juniors and seniors,
right,
sometimes a student will say, "Can I just not do this?" I'm like, "Up to you."
Right.
The expectation is that you will do it. You can do it now. You can do it later.
Right.
You cannot do it. That is completely up to you. And most of the kids that I have right now, the ones who have come to me saying that, they end up doing it.
Right. Right.
But to give them that option, it's like, I can't make you do a thing.
Right. To give them their autonomy and to hand it back to them and say, "Yeah, you have a choice. You can do this or not do it, or we can, if you're having trouble doing it, like that opens the conversation for, do you need help with it?"
Right.
Right. Because I can help you, or can you do a little bit of it? Like there's room then, again, that sort of curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But giving them some autonomy over the decision. It's so interesting that you say that ultimately then they
mostly
choosing to do it. I mean, when you say you can choose not to do it, there will also be some consequences on your grade.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, it becomes their choice.
Yeah.
Offering the help to help them if they don't know how.
Right. And sometimes, well, actually I had one recently. It's like, "Well, can I just doodle on my iPad, whatever they use, an electronic tablet? It's in my IEP," which probably is, because I don't have them all memorized.
Really?
Oddly, yes.
No? Okay.
But anyway, I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So what that student did is they paid attention. They did I think they went kind of quickly through because it was an intermittent, like we were watching a thing, doing a thing, watching a thing, doing a thing. So they were quickly doing their response and then drawing. It's like, okay, that's more than what they originally intended to do.
Right.
And they found out it was doable.
Right, that they could achieve at least some version of it. And again, not looking for perfection. These kids are working hard at developing these skills, but those are sort of partial skill development, right? And finding that's a strategy, learning how to use doodling. And that comes back to a sort of a question, I don't know, or question or a thought that comes up, which is often sort of different between how special educators may be thinking about things versus in a bigger gen ed classroom. And not critical of the teachers at all. I'm just saying it's a different setting and different awareness of what kids do and how they function. Is that like doodling can sometimes be seen as being inattentive or being disrespectful. And what we know is that for many kids with ADHD, doodling is a way to pay attention, right? Even people without. You find if you're doodling on the phone, back in the phones when you had the phone and you doodled on a piece of paper, talking or doodled in class, movement helps you. It keeps resetting your brain, right? So, like you'll notice, I always tell people this: like if you go to a boring lecture. Or you go to a concert, like you don't even think about it, like that you want to go to. You're like jazzed and attentive.
Yeah.
You go to a lecture that's kind of boring, you're going to spend some amount of time shifting in your seat and moving around because that helps to reset your attentional system. So doodling is a type of that kind of, it's keeping kids. There's been good research to show that for kids with ADHD, sometimes doodling is just what they need to help with focus, or fidgeting, using a fidget.
Yep. And we all have a bin of them that the students can access and use whenever they feel like it.
Yep. And movement breaks, like you said. I mean, I have some kids who have the opportunity to get up and, to either quietly leave class for just a few minutes, as long as they're, coming back unless they have to go talk to the counselor or something. So it's really going on. But if they just need a break, sometimes it's just standing up. Sometimes if they really need to move, they can leave the room and, like say, So,
and there's another thing that can help with that, which we've mentioned before, is different seating options. There's the wobbly stools. There's yoga balls, which take up more room, and sometimes they just roll on their own. So you have to have space. I do not have either of those in my room, but I have two spinny chairs, office chairs. Just, I don't know how I ended up with them, but I got them anyways. And so there are some students who really like them and other students who don't. And then we have different styles of just the regular student chairs in different rooms. So, which I think for some people, they prefer some over the other, but they know they're only going to be there for one class period. So if you don't really like it, it's not that bad most of the time.
The end of you can either manage it or.
Right. Exactly.
But having options is different. And I think part of what but like a unifying theme here is that strategies are often multi-layered and include, a variety of things. We're talking about different kinds of movement breaks or doodling or curious cueing from the teacher or another adult in the room, that there's being reminded by another person. At the age we're talking about, especially in high school, we want kids to be a part of that planning, right? Like you said, like this particular kind of seat or that kind of seat, or some absolutely do not want any notification. They don't want that teacher to even look at them during the class, let alone even to ask in a curious way. They don't want to be seen, right? So then that's a different kid. But you want these students to be sort of learning to be, and again, it's not like they're going to be and figure it all out, but these are skills they're learning. This is the way my brain works. How can I work to help myself, participate in the learning process in a way that works with my brain? And what skills can I work on, and how to ask for help? All evolving skills in teens, high school students, middle school students.
And it could be different on different days. That's another thing.
We always
did you get enough sleep last night, or just today's another day? And what was good yesterday is not working today. So try a different thing. You know, you
to keep
you
coming back and trying to, that a lot of times kids, I hear certainly, and that, you know, when we're struggling with anxiety or depression as part of this, it's like, oh, that didn't work. It was just, I can never do this. I'll never figure it out. And you get it because it's harder for these kids than it is for others. And but that encouragement and that support, fresh start, new day, you can try something different.
Right. And it's one day out of a whole bunch of days.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. Like when I give students the option of, you can do this, don't do it, do it tomorrow, you know, and I tell them, so of course, some people don't care about their grades, some people do.
Right.
The people who do care about their grade, it's like, well, is this going to hurt my grade? I'm like, well, if you don't do it, yes, it will. But keep in mind, there's all of these things. And I do writing prompts, not every day. We don't call it the daily prompt because it's not daily.
Not daily.
Some people do daily. I do it 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, depends on what else we've got going. And I go through them like every 2 weeks. And I tell them that. It's like every couple of weeks. And then I'm going to put a grade in. And the object is, did you do it?
Right.
The expectation is if you were absent, you'll go back to it. If you're out for a week, we'll talk.
Right.
What makes sense, a week or more. But did you do it? And did you put at least a little bit of thought into it? And sometimes people will say, once again, it's like, I can't think of anything for this. I'm like, write anything. I don't care. Whatever. This is not the prompt that I give you. You can go in any direction. It can be a poem. It doesn't have to be a poem. It could be serious. It doesn't have to be whatever, but show me that you're thinking and like you have an opportunity to write most days in this class, almost every day. I mean, it's English. Come on. And I love it when they come in and they're like, what are we doing today? And so my standard response is reading, writing. We'll probably talk about some stuff, but I promise you, we will not do any math. Like, okay.
That's also good humor, you know, like humor in response, like, you know, not shaming or, you know, belittling, but just, you know, saying, hey, dude, you know, that's what we do here. It's kind of funny. It's a little, you know, a little bit humorous and a little gentle and respectful.
Or sometimes it's like, what do we do? I'm like, well, I would like to wait till everybody gets here so I can say it once. And they're like, oh, all right, yeah.
I mean, that's you know, it just information, you know, and most of the time they're just going to be like, okay, I didn't know that, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, just something we were talking about before we hit record was the complexity of the IEP plans on these kinds of things, on these, like, again, we'll just focus on the ADHD component, like, it has trouble paying attention. And then there's sometimes like, you see them even more than I do, but I get these things from schools and it's like 5, you know, the student will pay attention, you know, 4 times out of 5 prompts in one class. I'm like, who's measuring that? And
you can't.
In the IEP, they don't often list a skill, like what's the skill that the child, are we just expecting them to suddenly do this? Like, what are we teaching? So anyway, so they're very imperfect documents. I get it. They're absolutely essential. But what I'm thinking of in particular, though, is kids in more integrated settings, you know, with either 504, not a full IEP, or an IEP, but they're sort of not in a separate setting that, you know, again, it's sort of in a larger classroom and a more of a general ed setting. It's like, well, what do you do with that? And how do you help teachers think about these kids with a big class and so much to do? And then this IEP goes by and they glaze over because understandably it's like, whatever, you know?
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of education and support that we need to provide to educators who want that support. They would love to know how to, you know,
right,
a more sort of adaptive interaction with these kids. You know, I think most of them would.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like we were saying, when students come to us with an IEP, which they mostly do, some of them, they have 5, 6, 7, 8, as many as 8 goals. It's like, that's far too many for the student and for teachers to manage. And I will say this, I really get really annoyed when a goal says the student needs to. I don't know.
Yeah.
The student does not need to construct a paragraph or do whatever it is. That is no. The student does not need to do that. You want the student to do it to show that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's not on the student. So
that's such a great point. I never thought they're all written like that. The student needs, not all, but that is a very common
I definitely have seen that on IEPs that we get.
Mention it. I see it all the time. The student needs to.
So our main strategy is, especially for the 11th and 12th, it's a little different. So for 9th and 10th, you really have to focus on, all through, we definitely want students to be able to write because that's kind of the assumption. If you're a high school graduate, you can write at a certain level. It doesn't have to, it's not the Great American Novel. It's like, can you make your thoughts known? Can you communicate clearly? Like if you have to ask for time off or you're writing an application for school, work, whatever. Could you write a note to the milkman? I don't know, whatever.
Okay, now you're aging us, Joanne.
Yes.
Now you are aging us.
Yes, but could you email your doctor or your dentist or something like that? And hopefully you can summarize something that you've read or seen. Could be a video or a podcast or a TED Talk or something like that. Can you write a reasonable summary and can you make some kind of conclusion? That's what we're looking for. So in the 9th and 10th grade, they might have an academic goal around developing writing skills. By the 11th and 12th grade, it's going to be more about identifying strategies to advocate, to get support, to do these things.
Tasks, functional communications, functional writing skills, like to be able to use them in your life as well as academics.
And identifying strategies to maintain focus, identifying strategies to advocate in the moment, or to interact with peers in an appropriate way, that sort of thing. So, and of course, by the time they're in 11th and 12th, they really have to have transition goals, whatever their next steps are, and helping them identify what they're interested in, what they're able to do, what the family is supporting, that sort of thing. So we try to narrow down the number of goals for all of our kids to 3, maybe 4.
To really keep it narrow and functionally sort of focused and not about just the kid changing their behavior, but how are you going to get to it? Sort of what are the
and how are they going to be able to navigate the world successfully? How whatever that looks like for them.
Whatever it looks like for them, as the kids say with their neurospicy, right?
Oh, there you go.
How is my neurospicy going to work? How am I going to work with it in the way I need to? It doesn't mean there's anything bad about me. It just means that, I have to do things a little differently. And what does that look like?
And if I need, and sometimes we have something like develop scripts. For, like if you need to ask for a day off, if you need to make an appointment, if you, whatever, or if you're entering a group, what's some ways you can do that for people who that doesn't come naturally to.
How to enter into a conversation, And again, sort of the broader story of all of this is that how do we develop intervention strategies to support kids in school with ADHDs, where we're at mostly today, in a way that really is helpful to them and supportive of achieving their goals. And it doesn't end up feeling more critical or judgmental or, harsh around things that are just really difficult for them, and that
Right.
rather than sort of, yes-anding it. Yes, you do have ADHD. Yes, you are spicy in this way. And we can still learn things together and help. And that I think that's the thing to me when I hear from kids where that's not happening, where it's more of, why can't you just keep paying attention? I'm the teacher, again, teachers are tired, but that they're not getting enough support to sort of figure out alternatives, right? Because it's just frustrating for
Right.
everyone. And
Right.
that it's just the over and over becomes a frustration for everybody. And that we need to keep building these ideas in and thinking about helpful ways, narrowing it down, being pro action oriented rather than stop doing this. It's like, let's try to learn to do more of this rather than just stop doing that kind of, all the
Right.
some fundamental things about behavior change and skill acquisition that we know.
Right. And I will just say, even regardless of whatever else is going on, there is some building of muscle.
Yeah, for sure.
On any of these skills.
Yeah. What fires together, wires together. You got to practice it.
Right. So, for example, there was an article recently from a college professor how many of their students entering college had not read a whole book. Well, we read a whole book. I have always done that, but I make sure that I probably added one more into the year.
Set that up as a fundamental goal. And helping kids who are struggling with it, I suspect, you try to work on ways to help them.
Yeah. Well, and on that front, giving students a choice. So I start the year off with, here's 10 books that I'm willing to teach. Because sometimes people will say, can't we read Lord of the Rings? I'm like, no, we cannot. I can't read it. Or a different other book. And it's like, I tried it and I really don't like it. And I don't want to be unfair to you or the book because I didn't like it. So I'm not going to teach it. And when I say that, they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But then, here's 10 books. Read the first couple of pages, look at the back, go to Goodreads or Amazon, read some reviews, rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 and tell me why. So we'll read the top rated books. And I'm sorry if that was not your choice. I always say, every book's not going to be a favorite. It wasn't for me. But hopefully at least one that we read over the year.
And giving them some more autonomy in the process, which is just so valuable, especially for kids at that age, really just such an important part of helping them engage. And like you say, you give them an explanation and it's really helpful.
And yeah. And so far, I mean, the first book we're reading, most people are liking it as far as I can tell. And then in my 12th grade class where they don't get a choice, but it's a different focus. The whole class is a different focus. So communication, it's like.
I was going to say, I'm thinking we have gabbed long enough about this, but it's, again, an evergreen topic. We come into the school year and I think people are always looking, educators are looking, mental health providers, we are always trying to come up with ways to be most helpful and supportive of our kids, with neurodivergence. Again, today's theme was paying attention in a classroom with ADHD and how do you help and avoid making things worse. And there's no, there are some fundamental principles, but that's going to look different for each kid, for each teacher, for each classroom. So if listeners have thoughts, ideas, things they've found that really work for their child, their classroom, their students, whatever, we want to hear what's happening out there that you're doing, the good stuff that you're finding works, or what you have found that doesn't work, So we'd love to hear from you. You can find us at our website, mentalhealthgoesschool.com. And there are, all the buttons. to submit comments or questions or whatever. So, do we want to do one good thing before we sign off?
Okay. I thought of one yesterday, but now I can't.
I was thinking, I don't think we've recorded since we went to Iceland. So we
that's true.
a shared good thing, which we took an amazing vacation to Iceland in August. And what an amazing time we had, right? It was just so different that like the physical place is so different. And I don't know if I had a favorite part. I think the waterfall was one of the most dramatic. That big waterfall was one of the most dramatic things for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you have?
That was definitely the glacier walk. Was just so our guide was very informed and very knowledgeable about the glacier. And it was just so interesting that, well, it's sad because they're melting and they know they're not rebuilding over the winter because it's not cold enough because of climate change. But we were walking on a level that had some volcanic ash on it, and they had identified that as from a eruption that happened in the early 1900s. So it was either 1907 or 1917. I can't remember which. Like that. But it was more than 100 years old, this ice that we were walking on that was melting bit by bit, even as we were there. It was fascinating. Like I've done it. I don't need to go to a glacier again, but I am very glad that I did.
I'm glad we did it, and it was a challenging walk. I think, we did okay. I kind of pulled up the rear a little bit, but I did okay most of the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And the guide was great. He sort of evolved the tour to his people who were in the tour. And it was just, we lucked out. We had beautiful weather. Like the sun came out for just at least that period of time that we were happening on the glacier. We were super lucky. We had our gear, our crampons, and our little prop axe.
That was kind of just like not needed, but whatever.
The crampons were needed.
Yeah, the crampons, definitely. And we had helmets just in case, but nobody fell down, so it was okay.
It was great. It was
but that makes me think of that. I think it was that day or one of the days we saw a rainbow a lot.
Well, we did.
Like it was raining off in the distance. But then that night, and of course it didn't get dark while we were awake. And we were eating dinner. We're sitting in a restaurant in the hotel, looking, and people walked outside and they saw the rainbow and the smile on their face. It was like universal. Rainbow! Absolutely. It's so nice.
It was
cool.
It was cool because we were looking at them out the window and they were facing the other way.
Yeah.
They could see the rainbow. It was. You're absolutely right. It's just such a delight to see. And people just, there are a lot of tourists. It's very, very, it has become quite the tourist place.
Right.
But I thought everyone we met, from the sort of Icelander tour guides to the young people who come there, over the summer or over the seasons to work, like everyone was lovely and informative and patient and kind.
And for anyone who's thinking about it and might have some concerns, everyone, pretty much not everyone who lives there and works there speaks English. What an interesting language to listen to. We were saying the Icelandic. Oh my goodness.
There's so little overlap that you can't, in some languages, like Romance languages or some of the more Germanic languages, you can pick out a few words. This is you're like that. Nope. I can't. There's
nothing.
No overlap. There's not very many cognates or anything. So you really feel like you're totally, but English is everyone learns to speak English in school. And so everyone spoke English and it was fascinating. Neither of us did fermented shark.
Most disgusting thing ever. But we tried it. We tried it. And we didn't order it. Just FYI, it came with some other things. Yes. We didn't order it separately.
Yes, I'm not.
So it's here. So let's try it. So
it was like a little plate of Icelandic delicacies made for the tourists, of course. I don't know how many people actually eat fermented shark there.
I know, right? Why would you if you didn't have to?
Dried fish is a thing that I think a lot of Icelanders eat and love.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we could probably talk about it forever, but that's definitely was a major good thing for
Yes.
us this summer. So, and happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to know more about it. Not related to our podcast topic, but all right. So we're gonna sign off, and we'll see you on the flip side. If you like what you heard, please go to wherever you get your podcast, hit like and follow. We haven't done subscriptions yet, but if you can like and follow, recommend us to somebody.
Write a review.
Write a review.
Give us a rating.
Those things really, really help us, even if it's a word or two, or even just an emoji. And if you hate what we said, please send us something and tell us why. We want to know. All right. Bye, Joe.
See you later.